You walked into the room and someone glanced at you. Just a glance. A fraction of a second, and something inside you shifted. Your posture changed. Your face reorganized itself. You became, for a moment, acutely aware of your hands. Why? You will never see that person again. They almost certainly weren't thinking about you at all. And yet your entire nervous system treated that glance like a threat assessment. That reaction, the one you had no control over, is one of the oldest things about you. The need to be seen, evaluated, and accepted by others is not a personality flaw. It is not insecurity. It is not something therapy can fully erase because it was never installed by your childhood. It was installed by hundreds of thousands of years of survival. To understand why you can't stop caring what strangers think, you have to go back to a world where what the group thought of you was the only thing standing between you and death. Picture your ancestor, not a famous one, an ordinary one. She's standing at the edge of a fire, roughly 150,000 years ago, in a group of about 80 people. That group is everything. It hunts together. It defends together. It raises children together. Being expelled from that group doesn't mean social awkwardness. It means predators. It means starvation. It means no one to treat your fever when it comes. Exclusion, for most of human history, was a death sentence, not a metaphor, a literal one. Your ancestor's brain evolved to make sure that never happened to her, and so it became hyper-vigilant, obsessively, exhaustingly attuned to the social signals around her. Every glance from a group member was data. Every shift in tone was information. Her brain learned to scan constantly. Am I valued here? Am I useful? Am I liked? Because the stakes of getting that wrong were catastrophic. The brains that didn't care what others thought did not pass on their genes. The brains that cared almost too much survived. You have one of those brains. Psychologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying the social lives of primates and early humans. His research, which gave us the now famous concept of Dunbar's number, found that the human brain is calibrated for groups of roughly 150 people. That is the number our minds can genuinely track. Who likes whom? Who owes a favor? Who is trustworthy? Who is dangerous? Everything beyond 150 becomes noise. But within that circle, your brain is an extraordinary social accountant, keeping precise records of your standing, your reputation, and your relationships. That number, 150, is not random. Dunbar found it by studying the neocortex size of different primates relative to their average social group size. The bigger the social brain, the bigger the group it could manage. Humans with the largest neocortex relative to body size of any primate landed at 150. That number appears again and again in human organization, in military units, in early villages, in company departments that function well before they start to fracture. Your brain was built for a world of 150 people who all knew your name. Now you live in a city of millions, or a country of hundreds of millions, or an internet of billions, and your brain hasn't updated the software. It still treats every person who looks at you as a potential tribe member who is deciding whether to keep you or cast you out. The stranger on the subway, the person at the next table, the comment on your post from someone you have never met. Your nervous system processes all of it as if your place in the group depends on it, because for the vast majority of human history, it did. Researcher Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran an experiment in the early 2000s that revealed just how literally true this is. She put participants in a brain scanner and had them play a simple ball-tossing game with two other players who were, unknown to the subject, computer programs. Partway through the game, the other players started excluding the participant, just leaving them out, not passing them the ball. The brain scans showed that the region that activated during social exclusion was the same region that activates during physical pain. Not metaphorically similar. The same region? Your brain processes rejection the way it processes a burn. That is not weakness, that is architecture. Eisenberger's research, published in Science in 2003, forced a rethinking of what social pain actually is. It is not an emotional overlay on top of real experience. It is real experience. The pain of being left out, of being dismissed, of being looked at with contempt. Your brain treats all of it as a wound. Because in the ancestral environment, it was. Social damage and physical damage both needed to be tracked and avoided. This is why the casual glance from a stranger can reach inside you and rearrange your thoughts. Your brain does not know that stranger is irrelevant. It has no mechanism for classifying people as high stakes versus low stakes. Every person who can see you is a person who could, theoretically, affect your standing. And your brain is not willing to gamble on that. Here is where it gets stranger. The care doesn't stop when you're alone. Psychologist Mark Leary introduced a concept called the sociometer. The idea that your self-esteem is not actually a measure of how you feel about yourself in isolation. It is a gauge of how accepted you believe you are by others. When your self-esteem drops, Leary argued, it isn't a sign of internal weakness. It's your sociometer detecting a threat to your social standing. Self-esteem in this framework is not a goal in itself. It is an alarm system, a readout of how well your social inclusion is going. That reframes a lot. It means that those moments when you replay a conversation from 3 days ago, wincing at something you said, you're not being neurotic. Your sociometer is doing a quality check. Did that comment damage my standing? Did that joke land wrong? Was I too much? Not enough? Your brain is running social simulations because for most of human history, getting those simulations right before the next interaction could determine whether you stayed in the group. And your brain runs them at night, in quiet moments, in the middle of tasks that should have your full attention. The rumination is not a malfunction. It is the social brain doing its job at the worst possible time for modern life. Now consider the cruelty of the modern context. You were built for 150 people. You now interact with thousands. You perform, in some sense, for millions. Every post, every comment, every appearance in a meeting or a classroom or a party is being processed by a brain that treats the audience as existential stakeholders. The volume of input is thousands of times higher than your brain evolved to process. And so the anxiety scales with it. Social media does not create a new kind of anxiety. It floods an ancient circuit with a volume of signal it was never designed to handle. Researcher Jean Twenge at San Diego State University has tracked the rise in social anxiety and depression in young people across decades, finding correlations with the rise of social comparison via technology. Her longitudinal data, compiled across millions of survey responses, shows that the generation that grew up with the most social visibility is also the most socially anxious. That is not a coincidence. It is a mismatch. Ancient hardware, infinite audience. But here is the counterintuitive part. Knowing this doesn't stop the feeling, and that too is the point. The social brain is not persuadable by rational argument. You can tell yourself rationally that the stranger's opinion doesn't matter. Your amygdala will note that you said that and continue monitoring the stranger. Because the system that generates the anxiety predates language by hundreds of thousands of years. Logic is a recent upgrade. Social vigilance is the operating system. What actually helps, researchers have found, is not suppression but context. People who understand the evolutionary origin of their social anxiety tend to relate to it differently, not as a defect, but as a relic. Something built for a world that no longer fully exists, still functional in some situations, overwhelming in others. Not a sign of brokenness, a sign of ancestry. Your ancestors who cared the most, who tracked the most, who felt the most acute discomfort at social risk. They are the ones who navigated the group successfully. They are the ones who reproduced. They are the reason you are here, sitting with that familiar tightness in your chest whenever you feel observed. The discomfort is not a mistake. It is inheritance. It is the oldest debt your nervous system is still paying. The next time someone looks at you from across a room and your body reorganizes itself, remember, that is not you being weak. That is 150,000 years of social survival running exactly as designed. Your brain still thinks you live in a world of 150 people who are all watching. In some ways, it was right. They were watching. And the ones who cared, the ones whose hearts beat a little faster under that gaze, they made it. You are the proof.